Hi, I'm Susie Garden, and this is the Ageless and Awesome podcast. I'm an age-defying naturopath and clinical nutritionist, and I'm here to bust myths around women's health and aging so that you can be ageless and awesome in your 40s, 50s, and beyond. The Ageless and Awesome podcast is dedicated to helping women through perimenopause and menopause with great health, a positive mindset, and outrageous confidence. Hit subscribe or follow now, and let's get started. Hello, gorgeous one, and welcome to this week's episode of the Ageless and Awesome podcast. I'm Susie Garden, your host, perimenopause naturopath, weight loss nutritionist, and proud perimenopause survivor. Yes, I made it through to the other side, and I'm here to help. So today I'm talking about something I know so many women are quietly, and sometimes not so quietly, carrying some shame about. And this was totally me as well. And I'm going to share my story as well. Low motivation. This comes up a lot when I'm speaking to people in my peri-weight loss assessments. And this low motivation doesn't just feel like I don't feel like going to the gym, for example, but that deeper, heavier feeling of I just don't have the drive anymore. I used to be so disciplined and now I don't care. Or I don't recognize myself. Why can't I just get it together? And if that's you, and I think it's a lot of the women that listen to this podcast, if that's you, I want you to stay with me because today we're going to talk about why low motivation in your 40s and 50s is very often hormonal and not a personality flaw, and not that you just can't be bothered. And understanding this can completely change how you approach your health. So let's name the shame. I work with so many really capable, high-achieving women who run households, manage teams, have massive careers, support everyone else, and they sit across from me on the Zoom and say quietly, I just don't care like I used to. I can't seem to push myself anymore. I feel so flat. And underneath that is guilt, of course, because they remember being driven and remember being consistent and focused and capable of, doing all the things they needed to do and still feeling energized. So when that drive fades, they assume I've become lazy. There's something wrong with me. This is how my life is now. But here's what I want to say really clearly, and I really want you to hear this. You did not suddenly lose your character and your integrity. Your brain chemistry has shifted. And when your brain chemistry changes, motivation changes. And this happened to me a few years ago now when I was in perimenopause. And I remember, and I was working, doing what I'm doing now. And I remember sitting at my desk some days, just not able to create anything. So just dragging myself through the days, just sitting here thinking, okay, I've got to record a podcast. What am I going to do? And feeling this complete lack of motivation. And I thought it was brain fog. But I now know that it's actually more complex than that. And it is really common in women. And when I really committed to doing my own Glow protocol, that changed everything for me. And so I want to share that with you. And I want to share that it's a really real thing and it's horrible. And it's actually a little scary because you think, this is who I am now? Someone who actually just doesn't care. And I nearly gave it all of my practice up. I just thought, I'll go and work for another practitioner and I'll just do that because that's easy. I can see clients. I'm always motivated to see clients because I really love that work. So I thought I would do that. I even considered going back into the pharmaceutical industry, and I actually did interview for a position. I actually did get offered a role, which I turned down because I just kind of figured, actually, I don't know that this is the right move. So I want you to know that this is certainly not an unusual thing to be feeling, and it does feel really awful. So I want to talk about dopamine and the dopamine estrogen connection, because yes, there is a connection here. Dopamine, you may have heard of it already. It's your motivation, your reward neurotransmitter. And it drives your goal-directed behavior. It drives follow through. It drives excitement, anticipation, that feeling of let's do this. And here's what many women don't know. Estrogen directly influences dopamine signaling. Estrogen enhances dopamine activity in certain regions of your brain, particularly those involved in motivation and in executive function. So when your estrogen is fluctuating, which it does wildly in perimenopause, dopamine signaling becomes less predictable. And the result of that is tasks feel heavier. Starting feels harder. The reward doesn't feel as rewarding. You procrastinate more and you question yourself more. I tick every single one of those. And it's not that you don't want the outcome. It's that this internal spark that you used to have that initiates action just feels dim or feels like it's not even there anymore. And some women, can confuse this with depression, and sometimes maybe it is part of that. You can't discount that. Maybe it is depression that's causing this lack of motivation, but this lack of motivation does stand on its own as well without being classified as a depression type or a mood type disorder. So, and when you've got this low sort of activation, well, it just says low dopamine activity, and then you add on top of that disrupted sleep, I can tick that box at the time, high cortisol, particularly a lot of us are in stress a lot in our 40s particularly, blood sugar instability and chronic stress, you get a perfect storm for low drive. And this is not weakness, this is neurobiology. So if this is you, please don't blame yourself. Don't be hard on yourself. And a lot of the women that go into this category are type A personalities that absolutely put a lot of pressure on themselves. I'm one of them. I get it. And yeah, you can really beat yourself up about it. But this is actually neurobiology. This is something going on in your brain that we can do something about. This is not something you have to put up with. So I want to talk a little bit about cortisol and the why bother kind of feeling. You know what I'm talking about, right? So let's layer in some stress. Perimenopause is often a cortisol dominant kind of situation, and progesterone, which used to calm and buffer stress, it's declined. It declines quite early in the perimenopause sort of journey. Cortisol can become more influential, and chronic cortisol elevation does something very important. It shifts your brain into survival mode. And when you are in survival mode, your brain prioritizes immediate relief, energy conservation, and short-term safety, not long-term goals. This is a very primitive sort of system. It has not evolved into the kind of tasks and things that we do now in our daily life that cause us stress. This is still about, it feels like an unpaid bill is a life or death situation. So there's no long-term goals when you're in a life or death situation, right? So when you look at something like, I need to lose 12 kilos or 25 kilos, or I should start exercising consistently, your brain doesn't see opportunity there. It sees effort. And when you're already tired, effort feels threatening. So the thought becomes, what's the point? I just can't do this. And that isn't apathy. That's a nervous system fatigue.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
How would you like to have increased energy, balanced hormones, glowing skin, and your ideal weight in just 3 months? Sounds awesome, right? Imagine having your very own hormone balancing and weight loss strategy totally personalized to you based on your body biochemistry to release excess weight, say goodbye to pesky perimenopause symptoms, and decrease inflammation in your body, which of course leads to decreased inflammaging. That's right, ladies, there are age-defying benefits as well. Oh, and of course, you have me at your fingertips for expert support so you never feel stuck or confused. I love supporting women on their weight loss journeys, and I've packaged up the award-winning Metabolic Balance Program with my signature hormone management system, giving you the GLOW protocol. This 12-week one-to-one coaching program is you and me, nailing down your health and weight loss goals, creating your personalized plan using your blood tests, a thorough health assessment, and your food preferences. And then we get started with me supporting you every step of the way. Even if you've tried everything, even if you have resistant weight and complex medical conditions, the power of personalized nutrition, mindset coaching, and my support is transformational and gets results. And I'm not even exaggerating, even if I do say myself. So if you're ready to embrace feeling like your younger self again, lose excess weight, manage health conditions, and regain your confidence, you can just book your peri-weight loss assessment at the link in the show notes or DM me at the perimenopause path. I would love to help you. And this kind of leads into why willpower doesn't work anymore. Because in your 20s, in your early 30s, you could override fatigue. I mean, I was a nurse, I was a shift worker, and it would be nothing for me to work with what we called an 8-hour break. So I would finish a shift at 11:15 and I would be back at work at 7:15 because that was the minimum sort of time that they had to allow between shifts. So 8 hours, you're definitely not getting 8 hours of sleep if you're finishing at 11:15, and that's if you left on time. And then, you're getting to work. You're not, walking in at 7:15. You got to get there. You got to park. You got to walk to the ward, etc. So that was just normal life for me when I was that kind of shift worker, and I didn't get long-term fatigue at all. It's fine. I could easily kind of go out at 11:15, and I remember doing this. One of the nurses had a Tarago, and we would all, like any of us that were around at like 11:30 at night that were bored and thought, let's do something. You just jump in the Tarago. We used to go down, I was based in Brisbane, we'd go down to the Gold Coast to the casino because that was the only place that was open, and we'd go dancing in the nightclub till 4 and then come back and get ready to have like an hour or two sleep and get ready to go on shift. And that was manageable. So in your 20s, that's pretty hardcore, and your early 30s, you could override fatigue. You could push through. Your hormones buffered stress better, your sleep was deeper, your insulin sensitivity was stronger, but now the margin is smaller. So when women try to discipline themselves into motivation, they often make it worse because restriction and intensity raise cortisol. Cortisol suppresses dopamine. So the harder you push, sometimes the flatter you feel, and many of you may have experienced this. I have certainly experienced this, not so much in that exercise situation, but just pushing through from a work point of view. And this is why so many women in perimenopause cycle between brief bursts of effort, followed by burnout, followed by guilt, followed by starting again, and it is exhausting. And it reinforces this narrative that something is wrong, and it restarts that negative and inner talk, that negative self-talk, telling you got to push harder, don't be lazy, you can do this, what's going on, why aren't you doing the things that you need to do, you're just being lazy. So now we know what the problem is. How do we rebuild this motivation biologically? And this is the really hopeful part. how my podcasts work. I tell you all the things that are happening and then how we can support them, how we can turn it around. So this is the hopeful part of the podcast today. Motivation absolutely can return. I have been through this whole journey. Motivation can return, but not through pressure, through physiology. And here's where we start. And believe it or not, nutrition plays a huge role in this because dopamine and any of our neurotransmitters are built using nutrients. You know that old saying, you are what you eat? That is absolutely the truth. So when you're eating, particularly protein is a really important part of any of our neurotransmitters or brain chemicals. Protein's super important. So protein at breakfast, super important. Protein stabilizes your blood sugar and supports dopamine production. It reduces that mid-morning crash. It helps to reduce brain fog. And this single shift can change how your brain feels within weeks. I'm talking just a couple of weeks. I get this feedback all of the time with women on the Glow Protocol is like within a couple of weeks, their energy goes up, but also their clarity of thought goes up and their motivation improves. Number 2 is morning light exposure. And you may have heard this before, but getting natural light within 30 minutes of waking regulates your circadian rhythm and supports dopamine signaling. And even 10 minutes outside will make a difference. So if you're in a position where you can get 10 minutes outside. I have 2 dogs, so I don't get away with not doing a walk as soon as we wake up. So that's really easy if you have that external motivator like a dog. But if you can get outside, even if it's eating your breakfast outside, if it's too cold, looking through a window where you're seeing the natural light, preferably an untinted window, then that will help. Okay, so even 10 minutes will make a difference. Strength training. I know exercise. Now, I don't love exercise. I'll be honest. I've said that many times, but I love strength training. Love it. I feel so good. I feel so strong, like I could just take on the world. Muscle contraction increases dopamine sensitivity. Here's your biology. I'm going to say it again. Muscle contraction increases dopamine sensitivity. It also improves insulin sensitivity and reduces inflammation. How good is that? So strength training, even twice a week, preferably 3 times a week, super powerful for this. And I think this was a real game changer for me, is getting really regularly into the gym. And again, when you're not feeling motivated, that can be really hard. But for those of you who are long-time listeners, you may recall I did a pod and I talked about the 10-minute rule. And I've had, clients, etc., say to me, I really remember that 10-minute rule and it works. Is that you give yourself absolute permission to just do the task, whatever it is. For me, it's going to the gym. Just do it for 10 minutes and then you can stop and it's all good. But you've done it for 10 minutes. And more often than not, certainly for me and for most people I talk to about this, after that 10 minutes, you're kind of enjoying it. You're kind of in a groove and you're just like, yeah, okay, I'll keep going and get the task done. So if you just give yourself, okay, I only have to do this for 10 minutes, sometimes that can make it easy. Now, for strength training, generally you will need equipment and preferably advice. So whether you go to a class, whether you go some PT, you may be able to find something on YouTube or something if budget is an issue that can help, but generally you will need something heavy to lift. And you'll need to learn to do it in a way that keeps you safe, all right? So I'm definitely not saying just go out and start lifting heavy things. You need technique, okay? You don't want to end up with an injury that then slows down this process for you. The 4th thing is sleep consistency. Even modest sleep improvement improves your motivation. And so that could mean earlier nights, even going to bed half an hour earlier. If you have to be up at an early time, try to get to bed earlier. Try to allow for at least 8 hours in bed. That will increase your chances you'll get, close to 8 hours of sleep. Having less alcohol. And this is something that I honestly have struggled with at times because I like a wine, and it certainly in the past, particularly in my 30s, I would probably drink almost every night, just one glass. And that comes from growing up. Any of you guys that grew up in the 70s, your mum and dad always had a cask in the fridge, and every night you would go, like that was a fun thing for us kids to do, would be to go and fill up mum and dad's glass of wine from the cask. And many of you will know this feeling, and it was kind of fun. So I think that really sets up a bit of an expectation that you drink every day. So I've really had to really drop back my alcohol, and it's definitely a good thing, by the way, definitely a good thing. It improves skin, it improves your hormone balance, it improves your sleep, so many good things. But also having a better wind down routine. So if you're going to bed and you can't sleep, you need a better wind down routine. So whether that is taking away your screens earlier, turning off the TV earlier, whether it's doing something like reading, something that brings you joy, anything. There's no real set thing that's better than others, except maybe doing breath work or meditation or sauna, actually. I should do an episode on sauna because that is very good for sleep as well, particularly if you're struggling. So yes, even modest sleep improvement improves your motivation. I wanted to have another separate point on alcohol, because alcohol actually temporarily increases dopamine. So you may notice if you're really happy when you have a glass of wine, if you get really energized and really fun and all of that, that's just most likely going to be this temporary increase in dopamine that you get with alcohol. But then the downside is it depletes it. And when you're in perimenopause in particular, recovery is slower. So reducing alcohol often improves motivation significantly, even if you aren't a big drinker. The last thing I'm going to talk about is nervous system regulation. Breathing, walking, spending time in nature, reducing urgency. Reducing urgency is an important one. And often, if you can think of all the different tasks that you need to do, it can feel overwhelming. And when you actually write them all down and prioritize them, you really can reduce that sense of urgency and stress by doing that. And I really encourage you, if you're someone that feels overwhelmed easily, I really encourage you to write things down and prioritize them and really actually look at it and go, actually, it's not as bad as I thought. Saying no more often, that's a big one. And as women, that can be really hard. If you're a people pleaser, it's even harder. I'm a reformed people pleaser. I'm getting much better at saying no, and I'm getting much better at standing up for myself. But calm bodies create motivated brains. So nervous system regulation or stress management is a massive opportunity for many women. So, if you've been judging yourself for not being as driven as you used to be, please let that soften. Honestly, low motivation in perimenopause is really, really common, even post-menopause. It's biological. It's not something you can necessarily control. It's reversible with the right support, but it does require a different strategy. That's exactly the kind of support I provide inside the Glow Protocol. We don't rely on willpower. We stabilise physiology, we provide structure, and we support your hormones, because when your hormones are supported, your clarity improves, your drive returns, consistency feels easier, and you start to feel like yourself again. And that's a really good feeling. So if this episode resonated and you're ready to stop blaming yourself and you're ready to start embracing a new path, I would love to support you. You can book a free peri-weight loss assessment where we look at what's really driving your symptoms, whether they're motivation, whether it's sleep, whether it's weight, whether it's mood, whether it's hot flushes, whatever's going on, and map out your next steps. The link is in the show notes. And I want you just to remember, if this is something that's going on for you right now, I really, truly feel for you. You're not lazy. You are not weak. And this is not permanent. This is your brain adjusting to your new normal, your new hormonal picture. And with the right approach, your spark comes back. So take care. Any questions or feedback, feel free to message me at the Perimenopause Path or email me hello@susiegarden.com. I love hearing from you. Take care, and I will see you next Tuesday for some more fresh content. Thanks so much for joining me on the Ageless and Awesome podcast. If you liked this episode, please make sure you click the little plus button if you're on Apple Podcasts, or the follow button if you're on Spotify, so that you get each new episode delivered to you every single week. If you feel like writing me a 5-star review, you would absolutely make my day. If you found this episode resonated with you, head over to my Instagram and DM me at the Perimenopause Path. I would love to connect with you.